welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is another update in the Delphi case. I try to keep you guys updated. I like to stay updated on this case because it's very interesting and so many twists and turns. So, in my last video, the most recent motion that we got was the motion from the defense to exclude Richard Allen's jailhouse confessions. So now, just on the 15th Monday of this week, Richard Allen's team came forward with a motion to suppress the accused's second statement. So this is an interrogation that he had with Jerry Holeman, who you also see in the thumbnail here. So that's Jerry Holeman, the one who had been who interrogated Richard Allen the second time. I don't know, how many times or what, but obviously there was a second time, and that's what the defense is trying to suppress. So let's begin. And before we do, please hit that like button, subscribe, do all those YouTubey things, please. It helps the algorithms, however they work. I have no idea, but all right. So this is obviously the state of Indiana versus Richard Allen, and we're going to talk about the suppression of his second statement. So comes now the accused, Richard Allen, by and through counsel, moves this court to suppress all statements from his October 22nd, 2022 interrogation at the hands of law enforcement Jerry Holeman, who failed to read Rick Allen his Miranda rights. That's a pretty big deal, that his Miranda rights were violated, because once those are violated and you say things that you probably shouldn't say if you had been given the right to remain silent, that's a bad thing on law enforcement's end to not do. All right, so while yelling and swearing at Rick Allen, lying to Rick Allen, and attempting to intimidate Rick Allen behind a closed door in a tiny interrogation room at the Lafayette Police Post. Additionally, a key portion of the videotaped interrogation provided to the defense is missing. What? The missing portion of that video is the beginning of the interrogation when Miranda should have been read. In support of said motion, the accused states the following. First, interrogation. Number 1. Law enforcement officers requested Rick Allen to appear at the Delphi police station to answer questions on October 13th, 2022, Allen voluntarily went to the station and sat down with police, thinking he was assisting them in solving the Delphi crime, since he had been on the trails earlier on the day that the victims disappeared. Obviously, we were talking about Abby and Libby. All right, so Rick wanted to help out any way he could, and that is clear in the videoed interrogation. This video was previously provided to the court on September 18th, 2023. The October 26, 2017 interview is being sent to the court overnight via certified mail for the court's review. 2. The two officers that interviewed Rick Allen on that day were Tony Liggett and Steve Mullen. This is the first interview. Rick was read his Miranda rights and signed advisement of rights form, which is normal protocol for law enforcement before an interrogation begins. For the first roughly 3/4 of the interview, it is apparent from the interview, Rick believed he was assisting the police in their investigation and search for those that the people who actually perpetrated the murder. Or I just said the M word and I was supposed to say that. God, it's so hard without these YouTube algorithms and stuff. I can't remember. Okay. I didn't say the M word. Of course I did. All right. So number 5, however, eventually when it became obvious that Liggett and Mullins were actually pointing the finger at Rick Allen as the unaliver, At one point in the interview, Rick said, "I don't want to be somebody's fall guy, and we're going to try to make pieces." Rick said, "I don't want to be somebody's fall guy, and we're going to try to make pieces of a puzzle fit somewhere they don't fit so we can close this thing. I'm not saying you guys, please don't think I'm questioning your integrity. That's not what I'm saying." But he's basically saying you guys are trying to make a square fit into a round hole, and it's not. That's not the case. He's telling them they're barking up the wrong tree. However, when Liggett and Mullins amped up the intensity of their questioning, even positioning their bodies closer to Rick, as I talked about in my Innocence Lost series, I just did an episode just totally on the John Reid technique of interrogation. I explain what it is. I go through the 9 steps that they do to really break down the suspect's confidence and basically keep them from ever even saying the words, "I'm innocent" or "I didn't do it." They want to, from the jump, start making that person think that they're involved in the case. Not necessarily think, but if they're coming at you like a suspect, that's the first thing they're going to do is be like, "Well, why were you there? Who was with you? We know you had something on you at the time," or whatever, So those are the kinds of questions that interrogators will twist on. I'll leave a link to my video about the John Reid technique in the comments below. It's just one of those, it's widely accepted interrogation system or technique that is used in law enforcement, and it's basically not just making the guilty confess, but it's also making innocent people confess because of the abrasive and manipulative tactics that they use. So where did I leave off? Liggett and Mullen amped up the intensity of their questioning, even positioning their bodies closer to Rick. So that's part of it. They are blocking him, I'm sure, from the exit, keeping him from thinking that he has a way out. They infringe on his personal space. They may touch a knee, they may put a hand on his shoulder, sit right next to him, be like up close in his space, just to make him uncomfortable so that he'll want to confess, because that's part of the technique. So Rick said the following: "It's over. I was perfectly fine. I was cooperating. I was going to give you my phone, and then, when you started reading all these documents, that's at the, here's my thing is, I feel like you guys think I done this, so I'm done. You do what you need to do. It's your job. I understand that, but you better effing leave my reputation out of it so you do what you need to do. And then, like I said, when you do find this guy, I'll expect an apology." Oh, okay. So already we know that Rick has been they've been using this Reid technique on him to try to make him confess to something that he didn't do. Yet, he's holding his ground, but once he holds his ground and says, "You guys are going to apologize to me," I think it got personal right there. I think those cops were like, "We're going to make the evidence fit no matter what." When Rick got mad at them and said this, that was probably the turning point. They may have suspected him anyways, but it never made any sense. Why? Because he was just coming in to help them with trying to give them any information that he had. So Rick then described how police were trying to ruin his reputation by accusing him of the unalivings in public, even groping him as they patted him down on the street. Rick was expressing that the mere act of mentioning his name as a possible life ender, or patting him down on a public street as if he were a criminal, would ruin his reputation and was greatly upsetting. Yes, he's a pharmacist, right? Or he works at the pharmacy, the CVS. I don't know. Like, you want him to you want the person that works at your pharmacy to be a reliable guy. You know, they're supposed to have integrity behind that desk and having all that responsibility behind them with those medications. So, anyways, it seems like the law enforcement might have gotten upset about Rick standing up for himself. So Liggett and Mullen did read Rick Allen his Miranda rights before they began their interrogation, and additionally, Rick Allen was aware that he had freedom of movement as he, Rick, ultimately stood up and walked out of the interrogation room. Good for him. Not a lot of people would do that. Not a lot of people would just have the balls to get up and walk out. I mean, when you're sitting there being interrogated or being questioned by police, you know, a lot of people might freeze up. I probably would. That's for sure. All right. So anyways, however, at the end of the... That's a very loud car. Very loud. I apologize. It hurt my ears. All right. So Rick... So however, at the end of the interview that turned into an aggressive interrogation, Rick made it clear that he no longer wanted to talk to law enforcement. He did make that very clear. Within hours of the first interrogation, Liggett drafted an affidavit for search warrant. Judge Diener then signed the warrant to search Rick's home and vehicle on that day. Rick Allen's vehicle was also seized. This guy didn't even do anything. All he did was go and try to help the police. All right, so the defense will not be seeking this first interrogation to be suppressed because they want that to know, like, look, you guys really screwed him over. All right, the second interrogation. On October 13th, 2022, Kathy Allen, Rick's wife, and Rick Allen asked the state police when they could pick up their vehicle that had been seized. They were told that they could pick it up in a couple of days. On October 17th, 2022, either Kathy or Rick contacted the state police to determine how and when they could get their vehicle back that had been seized, as they were in need of a vehicle, as Kathy and Rick were having difficulty sharing only one vehicle as they worked in two different places and needed two vehicles. I mean, yeah, you need two vehicles. All right, so after a few phone calls with state police, finally, the October 26th, Rick and Kathy were scheduled to arrive at the state police post in West Lafayette at 9 a.m. to pick up their vehicle. On October 26, 2022, Rick Allen drove with Kathy to the West Lafayette police post to retrieve their vehicle that had been seized 13 days earlier by law enforcement. State police had told Rick and Kathy that upon arrival, their car would be released, but never mentioned anything about additional questioning. Oh, those snakes. They said, yeah, come get your car anytime. And then when he comes, they're going to sit him down and make him answer more questions before they give him his car. That is so wrong. When Rick and Kathy arrived at the station, Holeman, so now this is Holeman, the guy who's in the thumbnail of my video here. Holeman met them at the front and said he just had a few things he wanted to clear up before he released the vehicle. Holeman requested Rick to follow him to the interrogation room without Kathy. Rick complied. Kathy was not allowed to participate in the questioning. She was told she could wait in the lobby. Rick arrived with Holeman into the interview room. However, for unknown reasons, the video provided to the defense is missing the beginning portion of the interview when procedural matters are typically handled by law enforcement, such as reading of Miranda, advertisement of rights, and confirming with the suspect that he is free to leave, if in fact the suspect is free to leave. None of that was provided or probably even done. And that's why that part's missing. In this case, either A, the camera was only turned on after they were already minutes into the interview because the video provided to the defense does not show Holeman and Rick entering the room, sitting down, and beginning the interrogation. Or B, the camera was recording the entire time, but the beginning of the interview was later edited out before being turned over to the defense in February 2024. I think that B is the most likely answer. Either way, the beginning of the interaction between Holeman and Rick in the interrogation room, when introductions are typically made and Miranda rights are always reviewed, is missing. In the 70-plus years of experience between co-counsels, this is highly unusual, especially on a high-profile case of this nature. The defense has not been provided with any report explaining this missing part of the video. To make matters more suspicious, Holeman claims in his November 1st, 2022 report memorializing his October 26th interrogation of Rick Allen the following, quote, "I asked Mr. Allen if he remembered the other detectives reading him his Miranda rights, and he said yes. I told him he was free to go at any time and that the door was unlocked." End quote. Holeman's report doesn't identify who the other investigators are that reportedly reviewed Miranda with Rick. Holeman's report doesn't detail when, where, or how these purported investigators purportedly reviewed Miranda with Rick. So why wasn't any of that documented? Holeman's words, quoted in paragraph 23, appear nowhere on the video. In other words, Holeman is not shown sharing Rick Allen about, or asking, Holeman is not shown asking Rick Allen about his rights, nor is Holeman, my head itches and I can't get it. And I can't do two things at once, as you guys are all aware of now. All right, so Holeman's words quoted in paragraph 23 above appear nowhere on the video. In other words, Holeman is not shown asking Rick Allen about his rights, nor is Holeman viewed telling Rick Allen that he is free to leave. So that's a problem. So if someone is feeling like he's stuck in a room with law enforcement and you don't realize that you shouldn't talk, that's a problem. Especially, if you're being looked at as a suspect and they don't tell you that they know or that they're thinking of you as a suspect. And so anything that you say will be twisted and turned into something to be used against you because they think they have their man. They're not going to keep looking. They're not going to keep investigating if they think they have their guy. Anyways, so in his report, Holeman indicates that those words were stated to Rick Allen at the very beginning of the interview. The beginning of the interview is missing. The defense has diligently searched through the discovery for any Miranda or waiver of rights form signed by Rick Allen on October 26th, and the defense has not found any. The defense has diligently searched through the discovery for any reports by state troopers who were on duty that day, such as Jay Harper and David Vito, who would have potentially read Rick his Miranda rights on October 26th. The defense has found no such reports. Just as Brad Holder's February 17th interview is missing, just as the mimicked crime scene found on Holder's social media page is missing. So the mocked scene that he made that was very similar to the crime scene, the social media images, and still has not been turned over to the defense, but the defense thankfully located in Georgia. And the defense thankfully located in Georgia. Is Georgia like a software program or something? I don't know. And just as Rick's original taped statement to Dan Doolin in front of a grocery store in February 2017 is missing. What statement is that? This is stuff we don't know. The beginning portion of Holeman's interview with Rick Allen is also missing. So Rick's original taped statement to Dan Doolin in front of a grocery store in February is missing. All right, so the defense has diligently searched through the discovery for audio or video by any law enforcement from October 26, 2022, in which it can be seen or heard that Rick Allen was read his Miranda rights or told he was free to leave. The defense has found none. Therefore, at this time, it appears to the defense that Jerry Holeman's claims in his report that Rick Allen was asked about his Miranda rights and told he was free to leave are false, and that key video evidence that would prove as much is missing. The following are true and accurate depictions of what occurred at Allen's October 26th interrogation as shown on the video of said interrogation that was not missing or deleted but was actually provided to the defense. On video, Holeman never read Rick Allen his Miranda rights nor mentioned them to Rick. Rick Allen was placed in a tiny, confined room without windows. Rick Allen was placed in a tiny, confined room and Holeman shut the door. Rick Allen was placed in a tiny, confined room with Jerry Holeman while the door was shut. A considerable size difference existed between Rick Allen and Jerry Holeman. If you looked at my thumbnail, let's look at it again. He's a big dude, like a big dude. I really blew up his headshot there or whatever, but his head looks small compared to his body in the real photo because he's a big dude. He's a big dude. So yeah, that would be very intimidating to anyone, let alone someone who, Rick Allen, who's like 5'5" or something, 5'3", I don't know. He's a tiny guy. All right, so a powerful differential existed as Holeman was a state trooper in his home court, Lafayette Police Post, and Rick Allen was a CVS worker from Delphi who had only driven to West Lafayette to pick up a vehicle he and his wife needed for transportation. Rick Allen was never told he was being videotaped. When Jerry Holeman would leave the room, he told Rick Allen to sit tight. At the 9:25 and 42:20 marks, or hang on 1 second at the 16:40 mark. In other words, Jerry Holeman told Rick Allen that he could not leave. It's pretty telling. When Jerry Holeman would leave the room and tell Rick to sit tight, he, Holeman, would shut the door. So another reason why you think, like, okay, I'm still trapped in here. Jerry Holeman lied to Rick Allen during the interrogation several times, including the following. So these are all of Jerry Holeman's lies. Or, well, maybe not all of them, but some of them. All right, so at the 7:10 mark, Jerry Holeman told Rick Allen that we have experts that say that's you on the bridge and that's your voice on the videotape. There's no evidence that supports this statement. Jerry Holeman lied to Rick Allen. At the 15:25 mark, Holeman told Rick Allen that experts are saying that's you on the video, and experts are saying you said down the hill. There is no evidence that supports this statement. Jerry Holeman lied to Rick Allen. At the 15:07 mark, Holeman tells Rick that witnesses saw a gun in his pocket. There is no evidence that anyone claims to have seen a gun in Rick Allen's pocket. Holeman lied to him again. At the 39:05 mark, Holeman states, I'm not lying to you about anything. Everything I'm telling you is fact. The experts say you said go down the hill. Holeman was lying to Rick about many things, and not everything Holeman told Rick was a fact. And it is baffling to me that we are still allowing law enforcement to just lie and say, yeah, we got you on video doing this when you don't. At the 42:33 mark, Holeman said, I'm not lying to you, Rick. That's unethical. Yeah, it is unethical, Holeman. Holeman had been lying to Rick. Unethically. Jerry Holeman told Rick Allen in what was supposed to be exploratory interview, the prosecutor and the other investigators, they want to see you lock you up and throw away the key. Jerry Holeman barked at Rick Allen in what was supposed to be an exploratory interview. If you don't tell me, you're going down for this. Jerry Holeman told Rick Allen in what was supposed to be an exploratory interview, do you realize the death penalty is on the table for this? At various times, Jerry Holeman yelled at Rick Allen, including in using profanity-laced language while accusing Rick Allen of the murders. Rick Allen asked Holeman to stop the interview. Rick said, "I'm done," early into the interrogation at the 12:05 mark, but Holeman continued his interrogation. The state police never turned over the vehicle to Kathy Allen after Rick was arrested. Returning the vehicle to Rick and Kathy was merely a subterfuge to get Rick to the police post to be interrogated. That is so wrong. That just leaves like the worst feeling in my stomach. I don't know about you guys, but these officers need to be held accountable. They just have to. In this case, in the Karen Reid case, in all of these cases, it's ridiculous that these officers are allowed to be as corrupt as they are and keep doing what they're doing. And we know about it. It's here in black and white. The Indiana Supreme Court dealt with a very similar fact pattern in State versus ER, which reversed the Indiana Appellate Court holding the ER's constitutional law rights that had been violated, therefore suppressing his statement. So this is the law. We're reading case law that is similar. In the same case, the accused had voluntarily driven to the police station at the request of the police to answer questions concerning an allegation of inappropriate touching. In this case, Allen voluntarily arrived at the station to pick up a vehicle, but unlike ER, Allen was unaware that he would be asked questions once he arrived at the Lafayette police post. The following occurred when ER was interrogated compared to when Rick Allen was interrogated. ER was interrogated in a small, windowless room. Same thing here for Rick. Law enforcement officers failed to provide Miranda warnings to ER. Video shows that Holeman failed to provide Rick Allen his Miranda warnings. Multiple times, law enforcement told ER to sit tight. On multiple occasions, Holeman told Rick Allen to sit tight when he would leave the interrogation room. In ER's interrogation, law enforcement actually told ER that he was able to walk out of the interrogation room door if he wanted. ER was told that he did not have to even talk to law enforcement if he didn't want to. Still, the Indiana Supreme Court found that even with those particular statements by law enforcement to ER, it was not enough to cause ER to feel free to leave. Contrast to ER's interrogation with Rick Allen's interrogation on video, Jerry Holeman never told Rick that he was free to leave, nor did Jerry Holeman tell Rick that he did not have to talk to law enforcement. At least we don't have it on video. And if he did, I have doubts. I have doubts that he did. All right, so in ER, the police significantly undercut an initial message from Freedom when they dramatically changed the interrogation atmosphere when a second officer entered the room and became more aggressive. Although there was only one officer involved, Jerry Holeman, that officer started the interrogation in a much calmer manner before amping up the intensity, ultimately erupting with cursing and yelling at Rick Allen. The officers did not tell ER that he wasn't under arrest. Holeman never told Rick Allen that he wasn't under arrest. In fact, when Rick Allen continually denied having anything to do with the unalivings, he, as well as words to the effect that Holeman has made up his mind, so go ahead and arrest me, Holeman never told Rick, you are under arrest. Police never told ER that he could end the interrogation at any time. Same in Rick's case. The officers repeatedly told ER to explain what happened, coaxing him to tell us now so that we know that you're being honest with us and not lying. And that's a very common tactic. That I don't know how many times they said that in the Brendy Dassey interrogations. Multiple times. They were like, just tell us so we know that you're being honest with us. You have to tell us now. there's that pressure of like, you got to tell us now so we know, or we're going to walk out of this room. And if we walk out of this room, you're not going to like it. Whatever. All right. So Holeman repeatedly told Rick Allen to explain what happened and attempted to coax Rick Allen to talk to him for a variety of reasons. So wrong. This level of interrogation should never be allowed in our free America at this point. It's not free. All right, so in ER, the officers were explicit that they believed ER had engaged in the accused conduct and their questions were accusatory, not exploratory. Throughout the interrogation, Holeman explicitly told Rick Allen that he, the prosecutor, and other law enforcement officers all believed that Rick Allen had engaged in the accused conduct, and Holeman's questions throughout the entire interrogation were accusatory, not exploratory. Included in the videotaped interrogation are the following exchanges that highlight the accusatory, not exploratory nature of Holeman's interrogation of Rick. So we're going to actually get some of the script here. So Jerry Holeman starts off saying, you're going to drag your effing wife and your daughter through this because you're too effing bullheaded to get out in front of this and admit you made a mistake. And whatever the F happened out there, we'll never effing know because you're too big of a effing blah, blah, blah. Inaudible. All right, so Jerry Holeman also said the evidence clearly indicates you are involved in this. Rick says no. Jerry says it effing does. It doesn't. I'm telling you that there is no way that a bullet from my gun was used in these unalivings. And I'm telling you that we had this effing round on February 14th, 2017, and it's been secured in an effing laboratory, and we've tested other guns. You could have taken it from somewhere else then, because it's not possible. I did not take it from somewhere else. It was logged in. It was taken. It was photographed. You think we effing took a round and threw it down by the unalived girl's foot? This ain't effing TV. This is realistic. That's exactly what I think happened, actually. Or, not really, but I think that they faked the logging it or something. Like something had to have been... Something's not right. Maybe they backtracked in logging it and gave it like a false... I wonder if there's pictures of it at the crime scene. If there's any pictures of the bullet, that would be interesting, because it'd be interesting to know if they took pictures at the crime scene, time of the crime scene, to see if it was actually there or if it just happened to end up in their inventory from the crime scene and it just appeared by law enforcement somehow, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, I'm telling you I can't explain something that... Jerry interrupts, and I'm telling you that effing analyst explains it. You can't get past that. Okay. And then another exchange between them. Jerry Holeman says, I'm not on video. Rick says, neither am I. 4 or 5 witnesses didn't see me out there. Me neither. My round of my gun wasn't 6 inches away from an unalived girl. Mine either. I don't think you're a bad person. What kind of good person ends the life of 2 people? Rick Allen, you're going to pay for what you've done to my wife. You want to F with me, but leave my wife out of this. Leave me out of this. At this point, he's riled up because who knows how many hours of investigation he's been sitting there being told accusatorily, you did this and you're lying to me and you need to just come clean and tell me the truth right now, and constantly being berated and being sworn at. So obviously anyone's anxiety is going to be rising, and suddenly you're going to burst. And that seems like maybe that's what Rick did here. Jerry Holeman says, no, you're involved in this. Your effing round is there, Rick. He says, no, it's not. You're guilty of something. You're guilty, and I know it, and I'm gonna effing prove it. So that is a little taste of what Rick Allen had to go through during his interrogation, which I think any little bit of that is horrible for anyone to sit in an interrogation room like that when you don't even know you're being interrogated. You think you're going there to pick up a car, your car that they took illegally. Police questioning of ER was prolonged, lasting almost an hour. The questioning was sustained and relatively drawn out, especially compared to roadside traffic stop questioning. So that was in the ER case. All right, so Holeman's questioning of Rick Allen was nearly 3 times longer than law enforcement questioned ER. Holeman's prolonged questioning lasted 2 hours and 41 minutes. Of course, that represents the length of the questioning that was actually videotaped. Since there is missing videotape, the entire length of questioning is unknown. The questioning was sustained and drawn out over that time, especially when compared to roadside traffic stop questioning. The officers continued the interrogation of ER past the time he was supposed to pick up his daughter. Rick went to the station to pick up his vehicle, but Holeman never mentioned anything about where or how Rick or his wife were to pick up the car. False pretenses. They lured them to the police station under false pretenses. Sickening. That is sickening to me. It's disgusting. All right. So at the conclusion of the interrogation, ER was allowed to leave and return home. This fact is mentioned in the Court of Appeals opinion, but not the Supreme Court opinion. Rick Allen was not free to leave as he was handcuffed and arrested on camera after over 2 hours and 40 minutes of denying involvement in the unalivings. The facts involving Holeman's handling of Rick Allen's interrogation are more egregious than those facts in the ER case in several ways. For example, the Indiana Supreme Court found that ER's constitutional rights had been violated even when ER had been allowed to leave the police station while in the case at hand. Holeman knew the entire time that he was interrogating Rick Allen, that at the end of the interview he would be arresting Rick Allen, as Allen did not make any statements to Holeman that were not already known. The entire interview was Holeman accusing and Rick denying. And it's true, because Rick didn't make any kind of epiphany saying, yeah, I did it, nothing like that happened. So the only reason that he was arrested was because he had it in his mind he was going to arrest him anyways, because nothing Rick could have said would have gotten him out of it. Law enforcement clearly knew ahead of Rick Allen's interrogation that they would be arresting Allen for the unalivings. However, rather than arrest Rick Allen at his home or work or after pulling him over, Holeman waited until he had one more opportunity to interrogate Rick Allen without Miranda. Holeman knew that Rick had walked out of the October 13th interrogation with Mullen and Liggett, and therefore it was unlikely that Rick would answer any more questions with Holeman unless Rick felt he was not allowed to leave. Yeah. Miranda would be a nuisance that would likely cause Rick to walk out on Holeman the way that Rick walked out on Liggett and Mullen, and they didn't want him to do that this second time. So, oops, the camera just wasn't recording during that period I was giving him the Miranda warning. Yeah, right, okay. If so, Holeman would not be able to secure a confession that he clearly wanted to secure on his own. According to State versus ER, a defendant is required to show by a preponderance of the evidence that he was subjected to custodial interrogation. The videotaped interrogation of Rick Allen shows by a preponderance of the evidence that Rick Allen was subjected to a custodial interrogation. Additionally, the defendant is required to allege custodial interrogation in the absence of Miranda warnings. You can't just interrogate someone without giving them their Miranda warnings so that they know they have a right to a lawyer. They can remain silent so that nothing is misconstrued in any way possible, because that happens all the time. All right, so the videotaped interrogation of Rick Allen shows that Holeman did not provide him with his Miranda warnings. Furthermore, ER is required to point to some evidence that his statements were made in violation of his constitutional rights. The videotaped statement of Rick Allen provides a whole host of evidence, as detailed herein, that statements made by Rick Allen on the day in question violated both his state and federal constitution rights against self-incrimination. Wherefore, the accused, Rick Allen, requests this court to suppress all statements made by Rick Allen at his October 26, 2022 interrogation, and to issue a finding that Jerry Holeman and the state police violated Rick Allen's constitutional rights. I just know Gall's going to be like, well, you can't prove that they didn't give them his rights because that video cut out. I don't know why that's her voice in my head. It's not. She's more like this. Angry and mean. Get out of my courtroom. I have no idea. But anyways, I give them voices in my head. Not really. Anyway, so that was the motion to suppress the accused's second statement. I absolutely feel that they have grounds to suppress this statement. It shouldn't be allowed in. I definitely think that his rights were violated and he was not aware that he was being interrogated. And that's a problem. That's a problem in our country and with our justice system. And that's why we need everything. All interactions with law enforcement and civilians need to be recorded. All body cams, I think all police should have body cams and wear them at all times because it keeps you accountable. You won't be fudging the evidence and, framing somebody, some innocent person, or making all the pieces fit necessarily. You'll know that you're being watched. So it's a little harder to be corrupt in those cases. I don't know. That's my opinion. It's a public position, so I think that within that comes the public's right to transparency in that position. So I think it's definitely something that technology nowadays is coming up to, but it's not a requirement, and it really should be in all jurisdictions everywhere in this country, because otherwise you have people like Rick Allen who confess, they are coerced. Well, he didn't confess, but later he did in prison because of all the pressure and psychological abuse he was being subjected to, and physical abuse. So yeah, I feel for Rick Allen. I really feel for Kathy. My heart goes out to the both of them. I don't believe Rick is guilty at all. I do believe that it was multiple people involved and that there may have been an Odinist tie, whether it's an actual Odinist belief to sacrifice people or not, that's not my call. But for those people, it was. For the people that took the lives of Abby and Libby, I believe it was a requirement for them to get everlasting life and riches and whatever it is that they wanted. So as we learned in my Frank's memos, that the what was it? Something about the sign of wealth. Oh, that's what the rune meant. It was the sign of wealth and having land and being prosperous. So whatever the rune was that one of the girls, or that was on the crime scene, one of the runes that was the meaning was wealth. So that makes me sick to my stomach too, thinking like these people who have these beliefs go off and find two young teenage girls that are willing to meet them in the woods, and they end their lives just so they can get more money and power on this earth, which money and power doesn't mean anything on this earth, because when we're dead, it doesn't matter. So that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. I don't know. What do you guys think happened in the Delphi case? Do you think Rick Allen did it? Do you think that he's being railroaded? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye now.
If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.